And, you know, I think this is really more a question for the FEC. I think it's pretty clear that they probably violated FEC election law in doing that.
Oh, the Michigan Senate primary. Abdul El-Sayed versus Haley Stevens. Millions of AIPAC dollars being spent, endorsements coming from the left, the right, and the center. But now it's gotten even more insane and potentially illegal. Yeah, that's right. The Haley Stevens campaign may have just broken the law. And it all stems from this advertisement right here, which at face value looks like an official email from the Abdul for U.S. Senate campaign. It's got the label at the top, and then it says, endorsement alert. Mike Rogers endorses Abdul El-Sayed for Democratic U.S. Senate primary, with a quote right there from Mike Rogers. But this is, of course, not the case. This is actually an advertisement from Haley Stevens to look like an email from Abdul El-Sayed to his supporters, which is a big no-no in federal campaign law. If you check the record books, and as we see right here, it says, if a campaign intentionally created a document that falsely appeared to come from another campaign or misrepresented an endorsement, that could implicate state election laws prohibiting fraudulent campaign materials, trademark or copyright law, common law claims, and in some circumstances, laws against election fraud or deceptive election practices. Yeah. So it looks like this could be a serious case of breach of FEC laws for the Stevens camp. But of course, let's hear from Abdul to see what he has to say about this whole thing.
Lies generally concern me. And, you know, I think this is really more a question for the FEC. I think it's pretty clear that they probably violated FEC election law in doing that. But it's also a testament to where that campaign is going. And at some point, a campaign that's confident about its success, a campaign that isn't worried about having already burnt $59 million of other people's money and has nothing to show for it, doesn't do things like that, right? And so we're trying to focus on what it looks like to build and win the future rather than to lie about our opponent and pretend, you know, something that happened didn't happen. But, you know, that's between them and the FEC.
Just absolute absurdity. I hope Haley Stevens has a good fucking legal team, because this is absolutely insane and should 100% be investigated. Of course, these are all alleged claims as of now, but this is a horrific breach of trust, at least, if not also morals and potentially the law. For further proof of this, this is what an official email from the Abdul El-Sayed campaign does look like, by the way, and it has very similar traits. It has the text here with some bold text intermitted with the logo on top. And to refresh all of our memory, here is Haley Stevens' ad that she put out that looks like an email from his campaign. Pretty damn similar. Yeah, and what's especially crazy about all of this is, of course, this is a blatant lie. Right? Mike Rogers is saying that he thinks he can beat Abdul because he's a progressive candidate, and of course he's saying that. He's his opponent. But if you actually look at the numbers, it's not even true. Abdul El-Sayed actually polls better than Haley Stevens against Mike Rogers, and this is from a poll before July when he had a huge surge in popularity. So now it's looking more like Rogers and Stevens are both trying to take Abdul down. Why is that? Because he's a threat. Oh, and on the note of endorsements, Haley Stevens just got a glowing endorsement from somebody that you should all recognize. Take a look.
Mark from Erie, Pennsylvania. That's Stick It To 'Em, ladies. Michigan's version of Tampon Tim. I don't know. I kind of like Stick It To 'Em, lady. I don't know. There's something about her. It's not that bad.
Great. So now Haley has the Jesse Waters seal of approval. I mean, that's just the guy you want on your campaign team. Really a great, awesome dude. I'm kidding, of course. So just on that front alone, I would pipe the fuck down if I was Haley Stevens, because what we just saw right there is more of an endorsement than Mike Rogers gave for Abdul. It's so sick and twisted, and more people are coming to the realization that Haley Stevens is just a corrupt and rotten candidate through and through, and that she's much more focused on the money she's getting, the power that she'll have, and the influence that she'll have as a senator, versus Abdul, who is actually trying to fight for his constituents, as this is now the most lopsided Senate primary ever, as Abdul talks about here. Take a look.
We're also here to celebrate a unique milestone, which is the fact that as a campaign and as a movement, we have withstood more outside spending against us in a Democratic senatorial primary than has ever been spent against any candidate in the history of campaigns. And if that doesn't drive a contrast, I don't know what does. When I say money out of politics, this is exactly what I mean. Is that you shouldn't be able to truck $59 million into a Democratic primary brought to you by AIPAC, which accounts for more than half of that money, and then a whole shell system of outside organizations trying to hide corporate money from the likes of big tech and big pharma and big insurance and big everyone else. And when we say that this is about the money versus the many, they have definitely demonstrated exactly what it is that we're talking about. $59 million, a record. But I want to talk about exactly what that buys, because that money doesn't come for free, doesn't fall off a tree. It's not spent for no reason. It's spent because these special interests and corporations know exactly what it is that they're trying to buy. They're trying to buy a vote in the U.S. Senate.
Haley Stevens is as corrupt as they come, with more money being funneled into this race every single day to the tune of millions of dollars. Just look at this post right here that says AIPAC, United Democracy Project, just had a massive 4.87 million ad buy primarily targeting Abdul El-Sayed. FEC filings now show that UDP's total spend in the Michigan Senate primary exceeds $24.79 million. And Ryan Grimm made a good point about this, saying, pretty sure AIPAC just casually announced it's spending more to boost Haley Stevens over the next few days than the DNC has its entire war chest for 2028. That's true. They actually, that is 100% true. There is no doubt that Haley Stevens is completely outspending Abdul 10, 15, 20 to 1. But there is something that Abdul has that Haley Stevens does not. And it's purely not really describable, right? It's the energy, it's the momentum, it's the drive that he actually cares and is passionate about his work and his constituents, not for money or influence or power, but because he actually wants to help people. And again, I can't really describe or articulate it, so I'll just show you with this moment right here. Take a look.
I am stressed out, and I love Detroit since 1984. I came back. Nobody's doing anything. Why do I need to be in a shelter? And they don't talk to you about I'm done rolling. But God wanted me to see what change is, because I'm going to be here again.
What's your name?
Paula Reed.
I appreciate you, sir. What's your new role, okay?
He takes his time. He listens to her concerns. He shakes her hand, right? He just has that energy, that charm, that care, that understanding that someone like Stevens could only dream of. But of course, because these corporate Democrats just cannot stop and cannot handle a candidate like Abdul actually winning, Stevens isn't the only one who has been lying about El-Sayed recently. Just take a look at this moment from Representative Hillary Schulten.
Abdul El-Sayed and Graham Plattner campaigned together. They fundraised together.
That's not true. That's just plain and simple. It's not true. Go ahead, try to prove me wrong. That never happened. I believe that Graham Plattner may have at one point mentioned Abdul El-Sayed in a list of progressives that were running during this election cycle, but that's pretty much it. These fuckers are just terrified of Abdul and will try to smear and connect him to anybody that they can to try to ruin his chances, because Abdul and also these people kind of recognize that he's a good candidate and Haley Stevens isn't. So they are throwing everything at the wall, including their morals and decency, just to try to have Haley Stevens win. And the bare bones is, Haley Stevens is not an electable candidate, as Abdul says right here.
Maybe electable candidates are the ones who don't need $60 million from corporations and special interests to run and win campaigns. Maybe electable candidates aren't the ones who have to carpet bomb the airwaves with 30-second glossy ads lying about themselves and about their opponents. Maybe electable candidates don't have to lie. So we'll go ahead and see who's electable on August 4th and again on November 3rd. But for right now, all these corporations and special interests can go on and burn their money. Go ahead. Burn it now. Burn it in the general election too. Because at the end of the day, we're still going to elect a U.S. Senator who's going to stand up and do our bidding instead of yours.
He's just amazing. He really is. He's a great speaker. He is a great candidate for Michigan, and I believe that he will be a phenomenal senator. And if you want to see more people like Abdul El-Sayed in the U.S. Senate, be sure you subscribe to U.S. Democratic Socialists for more news like this. But I think that's all the time I have for. I'm Iago Lashua. Have a good day. Goodbye.